Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Simon Allen, CEO of McGraw Hill, to discuss digitization, equity, and access in education, and what is being done to advance such efforts. Simon, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you, Jill. It's great to be here. Good to see you.
You got it. And McGraw Hill has a 130-plus-year legacy in the education industry and has recently doubled down on digital transformation. How have pandemic-related disruptions impacted the industry as a whole, and McGraw Hill specifically? Where does this digital push fit into that?
Yeah, almost exactly 2 years ago, everything changed in the world. It was like, it wasn't experimentation. It was really an emergency situation where all of the schools and the universities and colleges went remote, almost exactly 2 years to the day. That changed everything, Jill. It meant that we'd already seen a significant growth in our digital business, particularly in higher education, where now we do 83% of our business. You'll think of us as what you'll remember us maybe as an old textbook company. Those are days long gone. And now we provide pretty much all of our content. 83% of our business, as I say, is provided through our platforms. That continued and will continue the growth that we've seen because of the remote learning that students and faculty are using, but also across our other businesses. In the K-12 business, we're seeing significant growth in our core adoption market, as well as the supplementary and intervention sector. It's growing significantly again, all through digital. And with our professional business, our access platform is seeing renewal rates up in the 90s because of the fact that people need the right material at absolutely the best time. And indeed, they have to make sure that they subscribe and maintain their subscription. So all of that is digital. We're doing much, much less now of our business in print. And the shift to digital is just accelerating as the last 2 years have gone. And we're going to see that acceleration continue in the next year and two.
What is your outlook on both the K-12 and higher education industries? Where do you see the most opportunity for growth?
We're looking right now, K-12 is growing significantly. You may have seen our recent earnings reports. We're up at over 35% this year in our K-12 business in the US. A lot of that, of course, is from help by the funding, the various funding acts that came out of the administration, where we've got the rescue plan delivering hundreds of billions of dollars directly into the K-12 sector, primarily aimed at closing the learning gap that was caused by COVID. So we're seeing big growth opportunities in K-12, particularly, again, in that intervention supplemental space. We're also seeing big growth in higher education. There's a wonderful initiative called Inclusive Access that the US Department of Education enacted a few years ago, which allows students to purchase their courseware often for about 70% less than they would if they were to buy a traditional print book. It's a wonderful model. It means that access across education at the higher ed level is allowed from day one. It's wonderful for students. It's great for faculty. And we're seeing really good outcome from students who are learning well through that process. So the future for us is heavily digital, growth opportunities in K-12 for sure, not just through the CARES Act and the various acts, but also by virtue of us taking market share with our core business. And then in higher education, largely through the digital delivery through inclusive access. It's a very exciting time for us, Jill.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I'm most excited about is when we talk about access. Let's focus on that more. Equity and access, especially today on International Women's Day. It's important issues in education. How can companies such as McGraw Hill play a role in advancing such efforts?
Yeah, and I should have started off, I'm forgetting my manners, by saying Happy International Women's Day. I did a video for our staff today, a little digression, and I was very proud to say that 58% of McGraw Hill staff around the world are women. And actually, right now we have 34% in senior leadership roles, which isn't good enough. I've got a goal for myself this year to get it up to 40% this year, and then getting it up to 50% by 25. So we are delighted that we have so many women in our company, because many of our customers of course, across the school district and higher education are women. So it's important we have that. The equity that you talk about, it's not actually gender related in many ways. It is partly, but the big concern I have is with the equity gap that is around across society, particularly in the US. And one of the best recent acts, it didn't get much publicity, but the lovely named Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which just was passed, is giving about $42 billion directly to those urban areas where internet access has not been reliable. And by doing that, it's raising up some of the population that have not been able to have reliable access to the web in any way for learning or for anything. This act is directly focused on raising that urban area to give them reliable access, which obviously is good for us. It's also good for society, because the best and most important thing we can all do is close that equity gap and make sure that we're offering material and educational tools to everybody across the communities and across all of society.
And that's really encouraging to hear. We cover financial literacy extensively on this show. In fact, April is National Financial Literacy Month. And a big part of what we discuss with our partners and guests that come on the show is we have financial literacy material, but you need to be able to access it. And with everything becoming digitized, it's great to hear that companies such as McGraw Hill are ensuring to make sure that that happens, because without that access and education, you can't get from point A to point B and close that gap, to your point. So to further discuss, how can education companies and ed tech in particular play a role in combating the current challenges facing both students and teachers?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It's that gap that we have to close. And if they don't understand, a lot of individuals don't have access to personal finance materials. They can't run their lives. They can't understand debt and how they keep out of debt. They can't understand how to budget and manage, particularly at the age ranges, Jill, that we're talking about, where the majority, of course, of our customers are from pre-kindergarten up into higher education. That's the area that's so critical. I think it's very key that we, as an education company, as a technology company as well, we make sure we have the right tools. We've got great content, and that's where it begins, really. You've got to have world-class content written by the best authorship at the right level to make sure if you're talking to a second grade or fifth grade student or a junior level at college or a senior about to graduate, what is it that you're telling them? How do you think about what they must know as they plan their lives and as they think about organizing themselves in the best way from a financial perspective, and just understanding the pitfalls as well as the benefits as to how they can manage their own money. But unless they have access to the web, we can't get to them. We can't access them in the way that we must. So it's great news that that's going to improve. Then it's upon us to make sure we continually provide the best content, the most up-to-date material that will absolutely help students and children and their parents make the right choices about what they must do to organize their finances.
And finally, Simon, what's next for McGraw Hill? As a leader of the company, how do you see your role in the next chapter?
I'm having a lot of fun, Jill. First thing to say, we've had a great few years. We're very excited about the future of education. It is, I say to my staff, it is a noble business. And if you think, I've been doing this for 36 years in August, can you believe? And when I think about that, how proud I am that we have the chance to really help society and educate children and students right the way through their learning journey up into their professional careers. And it's incredibly important that we do it well. We take it seriously. We don't take ourselves too seriously all the time, but we take our roles incredibly seriously. And by blending the best content and the platforms that allow us to deliver everything digitally in very, very effective ways and for affordable ways, that's what is very, very exciting for us. So we've got a great future, and I'm looking forward to it thoroughly, particularly as we move into a more collective digital sphere across all of our businesses.
All right, Simon, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.